Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Sacred Starlight May astrology forecast. Just a reminder that this is a weather forecast, and everything, at least I believe, everything is open. So I don't want you to limit yourself in any way by anything that comes up in this forecast or anything I say in this forecast, because what do I know? I find astrology is impressively accurate, but it has to do with the timing and the themes that we're seeing, not what's necessarily going to unfold in your life. And there remains a great mystery of how all of this works. So just trust yourself, tap into your own, anchor yourself in your own belief system, whether you believe that there's a quantum element or there's divine or there's higher self, or you just believe in basic human goodness. Everything is open. This is just my belief. And so when we look at what comes up in this forecast, bringing awareness and understanding to the themes that are playing out, and then the timing of those themes can help us to engage with them in a more empowered way. So I know that a lot of the time when you hear, at least when I hear astrologers talk about difficult weather, it can feel limiting and it can feel kind of bad. So, and there's always good stuff happening and quote unquote bad things happening, like challenges that happen in the sky. So just stay open. Don't allow anything to kind of collapse you down into an old story or a belief that something can't be a powerful and positive change for you personally, because even challenging weather can push us out of our comfort zone and help us to grow. And, sometimes things that seem challenging are actually blessings in disguise. So just stay open to all of that. This month we have some amazing stuff and we have some challenging stuff because we have eclipses. And it's going to be that way in every forecast. There's never what we would call a perfect sky. Although perfect, who's to say, right? Maybe everything is divinely perfect. I think it is. So starting off with May, we're actually going to start with April 30th, which is the partial solar eclipse in Taurus at 10 degrees of Taurus. And actually, let me do a screen share. I want to anchor us. We're starting off this month in Taurus season, and we'll be switching later on in the month into Gemini season. So just really basically, Taurus is earth and it's fixed earth. And so that's very grounding and it's very sensual and it's very much to do with the real world. So it's not just mental or intellectual or about communications. It's about embodiment, like food, sensation, color, texture, taste, touch, the earth, and beauty, like physical beauty, not just conceptual beauty and things like that. So we really can use this Taurus season while the sun is in Taurus to engage in this way. And Taurus is a very stable energy. Now, there are other things going to be going on this month and that are already going on that shake this energy up and make it maybe not quite as stable as it likes to be, but that's okay because we can always you need a little spice sometimes in your life. So this Taurus season is also, at least it starts off quite wet because we have a stellium of planets in Pisces as we begin the month. And it's a really beautiful lineup of planets in Pisces, and Pisces is a water sign. So earth and water typically go together very harmoniously. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen. Pisces is a water sign. And this water sign, water and earth go very harmoniously together, and they make what's called a sextile, which is the 60-degree aspect that is harmonious. And so a lot of these planets that are in Pisces are going to be moving into the fire sign of Aries on May 10th, or earlier in May, actually. But we're starting the month off with all of this sort of earth and water, which is very rich and very grounded and very sensual. And then the tone of the month will switch to earth and fire, which is a little spicier, a little brighter. And then it's going to switch to air and fire, which is if you think air and oxygen feeds fire. So it's very light and very bright, which is where we're heading toward the end of the month. So this is just a way to kind of like tap in on a feeling level to, yeah, what this energy feels like before we start getting super intellectual with words and dates and aspects. We also have Beltane coming up, which is a Celtic, pit stop on the Celtic Wheel of the Year. And I think many other cultures have celebrated this season. So Beltane is like May 1st, May 2nd. You can think of it as May Day with the maypole, and it is a celebration of the abundance and the fertility of Mother Earth. And it is the midpoint astrologically between the Spring Equinox, which is the beginning of Aries season, around April 20th, 21st, or sorry, March 20th, 21st. And then also the Summer Solstice, which is around July 20th, 21st, 22nd. So we're right in between spring and summer as we kick off this month in May. So May, great time to kind of just get back in touch with the earth. Taurus, which is all about beauty and sensuality and embodiment, like the best that Venus has to offer, really. So we have an eclipse on April 30th, and you're looking at my current location, which is like very remote Nova Scotia, River John. So the houses will be different in your location, but that's okay. So you can see the sun here, which looks like a donut, in the sign of Taurus, and the moon coming together in the sign of Taurus at 10 degrees. So solar eclipses are always new moons. And over here, I should have fixed this, but you can see there's like a very faint yellow planet here, and this is the planet Uranus. It's tough to see, but it's very close to this eclipse, and then the North Node here as well. So new moons in general are like seeds being sown. It's a new beginning. The moon has very little light, but it does pick up energy as it goes. And the North Node is also... which you can see here, is also an indicator of what life is pushing us toward. The current of life is really pushing us toward Taurus. So every Taurus new moon doesn't have the North Node here. Every eclipse doesn't even have the North, like is not on the North Node. But this eclipse is. So it's a very powerful new beginning in the Taurus part of your chart. So you might want to figure out what house that is and what sector of your life that is ruling, because it's a massive, massive, just new push, new beginning, a desire to start something stable that is new. But the beginning of it might not feel that stable because eclipses are destabilizing just by their nature. And I'll explain that in a minute as well. But we also have the planet Uranus here, which is like a lightning bolt energy. This planet is moving very slowly through the sign of Taurus, and I believe will be here through 2025 or 2026. But, this eclipse is characterized by like this Uranian quality. So even though it's Taurus and it wants to stabilize and sensualize and get into the earth and get into the world, and physical reality, like the best of what the physical world and embodiment has to offer, and beauty and all of this, there is kind of like a wild card. So Uranus is about surprises. You can expect the unexpected, and sometimes it can happen very suddenly. So it can be quite dramatic. It does destabilize things, but the idea around with Uranus is that it kind of takes that like pow of the lightning bolt to break up that old structure that has become oppressive potentially, or just restricting, or it's like an old story that you can't break out of. And so Uranus really, really helps us to do that. It shakes things up. I always call it like the David Bowie planet. It's got this like extraterrestrial, sort of super futuristic, out of the box, innovative energy. And that's the best of Uranus. So, the best thing I think any of us can really do in this eclipse that's on April 30th, it's going to be different in your time zone. In Nova Scotia, it's happening at 5:28. So New York time, that's a PM, would be 4:28 PM. And In LA, that would be 1:28 p.m. on April 30th, which is Saturday. So the best thing that we can really do is to just breathe and try to innovate, get creative. However, also this is, and every astrologer is going to tell you this, eclipses, the light between the luminaries, the sun and the moon, is being interrupted. There's an update happening. It's almost like, did you turn it off and turn it back on again? Like there's something, the Taurus part of our life needs an upgrade. It's literally like a system upgrade on your computer. And if you haven't updated your computer in a long time, a system upgrade can be very challenging and very disruptive because you don't know how to, like, it shuts everything down, nothing works, like you didn't keep up with it. So it's going to require more work and more adjusting to get into the now, to get into the future. Whereas if you periodically make updates, any given update is not necessarily so challenging. So you can consider this a divine and system update or energy upgrade to the Taurus part of your chart. There's a lot of differing opinions on whether or not to be doing manifesting work. I just want to roll my eyes so hard at that. The manifesting thing, even though I've done that kind of work and stuff, it's become really in the spiritual world. My personal take on it is that while we have a lot of power to make change in our lives, especially as we're working with the divine, there's always something bigger than us going on. I mean, the divine is in us, so we're interconnected. But you can absolutely work with the divine at eclipse time, but there has to be an element of surrender and humility because there's something going on, an upgrade and an update going on that's far bigger than anything we can see. So trying to commandeer this energy that at this time it's literally like a recalculating GPS. It's recalculating. So you pushing all the buttons and everything isn't going to like make that happen faster. And you might find yourself, going off into the wrong direction. I mean, the universe will always catch you. But yeah, this is not, I don't think, a time to really do commandeering ritual where you're trying to just bend the universe to your will. And actually, I would argue that's probably not like the best thing to just do anyway. You can put yourself out there and just activate love and allow the universe to respond to that, because everything vibrationally is just responding. So anyway, this is a whole other rabbit hole I find myself going down. But ultimately, I don't think you can't do, my opinion is you can do any ritual that you want during an eclipse, but you want to have humility and you want to be connected to the force of love, connected to the divine, connected to goodness, and in a state of surrender, because so much is moving that you cannot control, that we cannot control. But you can still, put a good intention of love out there. I don't see any reason why you would ever not be able to do that. Okay. The other thing about this eclipse is that it's a very powerful new ushering in of energy and a new way of doing your Taurus sector of your chart. The eclipse is in Taurus, ruled by the planet Venus. Venus is the landlord of Taurus, and she is in one of her most amazing, it's literally like best case scenario. She's in the sign of Pisces right now, where she's exalted. So she's very happy and she's very powerful. She's really well resourced to be able to bring about the things that she wants to bring about, which are all good things, Venusian things: love, beauty, compassion, connection, romance, art, like everything. She's also in a sign-based sextile, which is a harmonious, like high five kind of cosmic assist degree. From Pisces to Taurus, these elements just work together. There's no friction. It's a supportive element. So she is overseeing this eclipse, and she is so powerful to bring about the best things that she wants to bring about. On top of that, she is conjoined to Jupiter, which is another benefic planet that's also in its most powerful position, or one of its most powerful positions, in its home sign of Pisces. So you have like, it's just double benefic amazingness that's in charge of this eclipse. So while eclipses, yes, can be destabilizing, it's just, this one is being governed by some of the most blessed, graceful energy I think you could have. It's really just amazing. Of course, Neptune is aspecting this eclipse as well, but it's positive. So Neptune is kind of about the higher realms. So dream, it's not really so much about the physical world. So maybe dreams, compassion, spirituality, and art can inform what we want to anchor into the embodied world in the Taurus sector of our chart. And I would say certainly with Jupiter and Venus ruling over this eclipse from Pisces, there is like a higher compassionate vision of goodwill that's kind of really seeding what's going on here, overseeing it and supporting it. So it's very, very exciting. Saturn does square this eclipse by sign, but it's not super close. So, you know, that's going to be more of a thing when we get to the second eclipse that happens 2 weeks later, because eclipses are always coming in pairs. But basically, a square just requires some sort of adjustment, and Saturn is always asking us how we want to work with structure in the world, rules, authority figures, things like that. So, you know what, I'm going to set Saturn aside. For now, it is a sign-based square, but it's not super close. So by and large, I think there's just a really powerful new, like right out of the gate, something powerful shifting in all of the Taurus sectors of our charts. As well, the nodes being on the Taurus Scorpio axis, there's really an 18-month period where our lives are kind of being transformed in the Taurus Scorpio axis or sectors of our chart. So it's a longer process. However, with an eclipse, you typically do see like bigger shifts, you know, give or take a few weeks on either side of the eclipse, and sometimes like right on the date, right on or around the date. So innovate and bring goodwill and compassion and love, and be willing to have some new starts in the Taurus sector of your chart. Just allow, pieces are going to be moving around, and we won't be able to control all of it. So just like breathe and love, and we should be doing really, really well here. Okay, so that is the April 30th eclipse. May 1st, May 2nd, we could be celebrating Beltane, just enjoying Taurus season, you know, smelling the roses, getting outside, getting a massage, falling in love, you know, eating delicious food. You know, it's a very fertile time. That's really beautiful. Okay, May 2nd also. So we have Venus, let's animate this chart here. So May 1st, May 2nd. So we have Venus, who ruled over that eclipse and rules over Taurus season in general. She's the ruler of the sun in Taurus, is answering to her. She was in her highest, most exalted place in Pisces. She's now moved into fiery, passionate Aries. And this is a place where she's a lot less comfortable. She's actually in detriment in Aries, but she has some, it's not like a worst case scenario. So let's just talk about Venus and Aries first and foremost. This really spices things up. Aries is the warrior sign. And you can see why Venus as the lover might not be so into war, right? But, you know, Aries is about new starts, initiating things. It's very driven, it's very passionate, it's very exciting, or very excited, and it's very directed. It's like, I am going for this, and it doesn't have like a whole lot of self-restraint. It's very honest sign for that reason. And yeah, it's just going for it, right? So Venus being the planet of love, art, connection, she might get like, she's got like some chili peppers in her shoes, you know, at this point in time. And so that's invigorating. Like she is in undergoing a loss of dignity. So she's not as powerful in the sign of Aries. Maybe it's a little more challenging for her to bring about the things she wants to bring about. But by and large, you know, she's still Venus, and it's still very cool. So just look for some sort of spicier, brighter energy here. She is in a mutual reception by exaltation with Mars in Pisces. So what that means basically is that, you know, she's exalted in Pisces, Mars is in domicile and dignified in Aries. So those two planets have basically swapped signs where they're powerful, so they can kind of help each other out. So if you do reception by exaltation, that can work. So it's, you know, even though she's kind of suffering a loss of dignity here, she has some help from Mars. And also from the sun, she rules over Taurus. So this is where it starts to get a little rabbit holey, but Venus is also, because she rules over Taurus, she is the landlord of the sign of Taurus. She's in her power when she's in the sign of Taurus. The sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. So she, you know, they have a reception as well by exaltation. So Venus and Aries, not so bad. She has a little bit of help here, but this is a great time to get into, you know, some passion. It's spicy, it's fiery. Okay. May 5th, the sun is conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So the sun is, you know, the life giver of our solar system. Everything revolves around it. And it's a big part of our consciousness. And, you know, we really can what's happening to the sun is something that we all experience, regardless of what's happening with our own charts. So the sun moves very quickly. This conjoining to the planet Uranus is over within a day. We usually feel it a little bit more on the buildup, so maybe a few days before, but typically right on May 5th. Uranus, again, that David Bowie planet, that alien planet, that non-conformer planet, that rebel planet. It's the awakener and it's the innovator, and it's bringing us into the future. It also rules surprises. It does disrupt the status quo because it wants to break us out of something that we were kind of maybe stuck in or entrenched in. So with the sun conjunct Uranus in our Taurus house, again, this could just be like a development of what started to happen on the Taurus new moon partial solar eclipse on April 30th. There could be like another sort of surprising development that just kind of pops there in the Taurus part of your chart. And, you know, there could be a little bit of balancing that you have to do with pre-existing structures and systems in your life, specifically around the Aquarius part of your chart, because it is a square to Saturn, but it's not super tight. So yeah, just look for maybe some surprises around May 5th and just roll with them, flow with them. May 10th. So of course there's other stuff happening here. Mainly we're just on these in-between days, we're just looking at the moon, which is quite significant, but we'll be here all day if I go into like every single day, and I'm already taking longer than I thought I was going to take. So May 10th is a huge day. We're just going to skip ahead to like, these are the highlights. May 10th why is May 10th such a big deal? So we have two really big astrological events on this day. We have Jupiter moving into the sign of Aries, and actually, let me just scroll forward a few hours until that actually happens. Come on, Jupiter, there you are. So here's Jupiter joining Venus and the asteroid Chiron in Aries, and we also have Mercury stationing retrograde in Gemini. And Mercury entered Gemini like right around the time of the first eclipse as well. So let's actually deal with Mercury first. It's not, I feel like it's not quite as big a deal, but when Mercury went into Gemini, I feel like that was either the 29th or maybe the 30th, maybe May 1st, one of those days. Mercury in Gemini is very powerful. It's a planet in its home sign. So it's all about communications. It's an air sign. It's very bright. It's very zippy. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. I'm connecting this. I'm connecting that. I'm connecting with this. I'm connecting with that. You know, we're dabbling, we're experimenting, we're trying a whole bunch of different things, and we're very busy. We're very social. There's a lot flying around. It's very fast and very mental energy and can be quite stimulating. And so you would think, oh, Mercury in Gemini, like zoom, zoom, zoom. But it is stationing retrograde 10 days after that ingress on May 10th. So a lot of those ideas that initially might start to like fly off at the beginning of the month, or rather the end of April, are subject to revision. So just kind of roll with that, but just know that there may be some things that need to be revised, especially in the Gemini part of your chart, the Gemini house of your chart, or the Virgo house of your chart, because Mercury does rule over that house as well. So Mercury is stationing retrograde, and I didn't write down until when it goes direct. It's like June something. It's retrograde for the rest of May. Okay. Like early-ish June. I wrote it, it's written down somewhere else. I'll get it together one of these days. So just know that you're going to have some revision, but it's interesting. So with both of these planets, Mercury stationing retrograde in Gemini on May 10th, and Jupiter moving into Aries, a fire sign, which will spend a lot of time, like most of the year here. We're moving from earth and water, which is much more dense and much slower and much more like physical and embodied and sensual, to air and fire, which is brighter and lighter and like sparky and like faster. Honestly, it's much faster. So there's a real speeding up and like a huge influx of vital energy. Especially Aries is that first sign of the zodiac. It wants to start things, and it has this massive impulse of vital energy to do so. So we're getting a huge amount of Aries energy all of a sudden right on May 10th, but because Jupiter and Venus, both benefics, are there. And it's really good. However, we just have to be mindful of like making too many plans, because they could be going a little screwy. Whenever Mercury is retrograde, we don't necessarily, like, it screws with communications, it screws with travel, because it's all about connecting. So travel, moving from one place to the next, is about connecting from one place to the next. Communications is about connecting from one person to another, a particular concept or idea, or exchanging information. And when Mercury is retrograde, it's just, we don't know, sometimes we don't know that we don't know, or we think something's been clearly communicated, clearly understood, but it wasn't. And then you find out later. So an amazing thing to do with this period of time might be to revisit previous things that have been started and like revise, review, possibly retrieve some of those. I imagine inspiration will be quite high at this time with all of this passion and, you know, in Aries, all these planets in Aries. We might have a lot of motivation to like, Aries this is the charge. It's like the battle cry, the Braveheart battle cry. What did I write down here? Passions ignite, inspiration flows, details may be scrambled and need grounding and reworking. So you might be very excited, and that's great, but just maybe like roll with that excitement and allow whatever is inspired to incubate for a bit, and just, rework it. This is a great time to retrieve some other stuff as well. So right out of the gate, allow that inspiration to be there, but just no, Mercury's retrograde. So take some caution with that. So we have the second eclipse happening, which is a total lunar eclipse at 25 degrees Scorpio, conjunct the south node. So eclipses always work in pairs. Whenever something new starts, there has to be something else that is released to create room for it. And especially when you have, new inspirations, you have grown, you have changed, or you are in the process of doing that. Naturally, there's some things that are in your sphere that aren't going to be in line with the new changes and do need to be let go. So along the Scorpio axis, whatever, or the Scorpio Taurus axis, whatever house Scorpio rules in your chart is where there's really a lot of stuff being released over like a significant period of time as well. So when did the nodes, in January, I think it was January 18th, was when the South Node entered Scorpio and the North Node entered Taurus. So from January 18th through like about the next 18 months, there is a massive sort of newness in the Taurus area of your chart, releasing in the Scorpio area of your chart. And the more you try to put energy toward that Scorpio part of your chart, it's almost like, you know, bailing out a leaky boat. Like there's just a hole in the boat. Like it's I can't remember who said this. It was somebody on the Astrology podcast and it was so good. But the South Node, which is in Scorpio, is like a leak. It's like a suck or a void. So putting energy in there, it's just going to immediately dissipate. It's not going to stay. So it's really challenging. And the moon in Scorpio is in fall here. She doesn't like to be in Scorpio. The moon is about embodiment and softness and receptivity. And, you know, it's about the physical body as well as feelings. But it's not a mental energy. And it's very difficult. And Scorpio is just a sign that rules the full spectrum of human experience. So it can rule over different areas of people's lives depending on what houses or house it governs in your chart. But Scorpio archetypally is about death and rebirth, and looking at the shadows, like everything that's underneath the surface, you know. And ultimately, it's a phoenix energy. It's very powerful for that reason because it doesn't ignore the very real, more challenging experiences and feelings of life and pretend that they're not there. It's forced to go through those, and it is strengthened and gains wisdom and power as a result of that. But it's just, there is some challenging energy. It can be very intense. So this full lunar eclipse in Scorpio is already a little bit challenging because it's conjunct the South Node. So that does say that there's something that needs to go. And you might not be ready to let go of it, but you will have to. It's like a let go or be dragged sort of energy. And so just like, again, working with eclipses, we do the best, at least I do the best. I can only speak for myself. I have a really strong relationship with the divine, with love. And the more I link into that and just surrender and allow and ask for help, allowing everything to be recalibrated in accordance with the highest divine order, and just knowing that it's happening for us. It really is. So that's just what I would offer here. There's a few more things here that highlight that this eclipse is a little bit more challenging. So it's not just the South Node, which emphasizes a release, a purge, or letting go. It is very tightly square Saturn. So squares are challenging aspects. They chafe. They're just not easy. They do grow us, actually, because they show us where something is out of alignment and needs to be adjusted, but it's usually just very uncomfortable. Saturn is about structure and boundaries and time, so and authority. So there could be and reality. So there could be some sort of reality we have to face about what's going on, or the structures, systems, authority figures in our world, in the Aquarius part of our chart, most likely, where Saturn is, that is, causing us to, there's something we've got to let go of in the Scorpio part of our chart, and it's maybe being made more difficult by Saturn. We have to figure out how to let go of it, or how to better work with structures, authorities, and systems in our lives. So yeah, there's just a rebalancing that's happening here. You may come across some perceived limitations, or maybe just real limitations in the world, stuff that you've always done a certain way and it's just not going to work. There's maybe some sort of blockage and you've got to try something different. The way it was going is not going to work anymore. We have to change some things. And the change that we make, because Saturn is involved, is usually not something that's going to be easy or fast to fix, which can also be more intimidating because you're like, oh my God, this doesn't work, but I don't know how to fix it. I'm so uncomfortable, but I don't know how to. He's like, we do know how to fix it. It's just going to take a while. So like, there isn't a quick fix, and that's okay as well, right? That we're all going through this. There's something in every single person's life that's like this, where there's like deep changes that need to happen, that are going to take some time. So just be easy on yourself. No, it's not just you. You're not a fuck up. Like there's, all of us are having our process with something like this in one way or another. So that's okay. We can find a way to rebuild a new structure that does work. And yeah, it might be hard, but we can do it. There's something else. Oh yeah, this eclipse is ruled by Mars. So Mars is a malefic planet, and Mars is in Pisces, conjunct Neptune at this time, which is also very interesting. So the ruler of this eclipse is actually Mars in Pisces is, it's not without dignity. It has dignity by triplicity. It's okay in water, but it's conjunct Neptune. So also it may be a little harder to see exactly where you're going. You might not feel like you have a lot of clarity. There is, it is actually aspecting the moon by a pretty strong trine, and the sun by a very strong sextile. So there is support there. Lean on maybe your ideals with this eclipse and try to believe in them no matter how hard things may seem. Like there may be a real stark difference or dissonance between where we are in our lives and where we would like to be, or whatever is coming up for you in your life. It could be, maybe not this dramatic. It's not going to be this dramatic for everybody. But if you have planets around 25 degrees, you'll probably be feeling this of anything, but especially the fixed signs. So yeah, if things feel kind of harsh in the world for whatever reason, just like tap into compassion as much as you can. There's usually going to be some unsavory emotions that come up that are just challenging. This eclipse could potentially sting or chafe or rub, but compassion is always available. Love is always available, and it is available here. So via trine here, this Mars-Neptune conjunction is like making a very supportive aspect to the moon, even though there are a lot of challenges here, and to the sun. So it's the dreams and the compassion and the love that can help us work through whatever this big change, this big shift is, this reality check of what needs to change in the physical world here, and the process that needs to begin. Okay, yeah, but this is difficult. Ooh, okay, yeah, this is difficult. It's difficult feelings that come up. And this is also a big day because, okay, check it out. Nobody else that I have seen has really talked much about this, but Venus is conjunct Chiron here, and it looks like she's just actually cleared this conjunction. It's separating, but so Venus in Aries, also ruled by Mars, the same as this eclipse. Like we said, Venus is not without any help here, but Chiron is the wounded healer. Wherever Chiron is, just usually feels pretty tender. It's a sense of vulnerability that comes up. So this full moon, lunar eclipse in Scorpio, conjunct the South Node, tightly square Saturn, and also and ruled by Mars. And at the same day, basically Venus is conjoining Chiron, there could really be like a sense of wounding. Like you could just be feeling kind of wounded. But this Venus Chiron conjunction is really quick. Like all of this, it moves fast. The sun moves fast, the moon moves fast, Venus moves fast. So it's fast, but it's intense. But we will move through it. So Venus also could be like, Venusian stuff like love and connection and community, and art and self-confidence and all of those things. We may just be feeling the wounds come up, but it's gonna move through quickly. So it's okay. So lean on love, lean on compassion, lean on your community if you can, or your friends, whatever you need to do. Get like a good spiritual practice, and when I say spiritual practice, like if you're not a meditator, like a spiritual practice is calling a friend and going bowling too, or going for a glass of wine, or whatever it is that you need to do. This is a time to have something lined up that works for you, like get some support in place. Okay. Yeah. This eclipse, wounds can be healed, problems can be worked through, we do evolve. That's super important. So I wrote that down here. Okay, so after this eclipse, which is again, like still, there's a lot of stuff moving, a few weeks before, a few weeks after, like this whole month, we're really feeling this. These are just peak dates. The next thing we have here on May 17th, Mars conjunct Neptune. Yeah, so we already kind of went into that, but which is like a building aspect that's happening on the eclipse. Mars is passion, motivation, and drive. It's in this water sign, which kind of softens it a little bit, but it can still be, it's the warrior archetype. It, in the light, it can be the defender of the weak. It's vitality, it's virility, it's passion, drive, action, leadership. That's really, really powerful part of Mars. But it's like when you have Mars going into Neptune is literally just the higher realms that are kind of nebulous and dissolve physical form. It can feel misty. It could feel compassionate. It could feel connected to the divine. It could feel like inspired and artistic, but also it can feel lost and confused and directionless. So one of the things, this energy is neutral. Like it can unfold in so many different ways. A positive way that it could unfold would be like positive action toward and inspiration and leadership in Neptunian areas. So that could be art, compassion, humanitarian causes, spirituality, like taking action around those kind of things. And this is in the Pisces part of your chart. But it could also be wounds around those things, like, and Mars charging right into a mist. Maybe Mars can't see where he's going. And a word as a side note on pronouns, I always say, Mars is typically seen as a masculine energy. I'm using he. By all means, like use any pronouns that you want, like 100% use any pronouns you want. So we could say Mars, they can't see where they're going. So that would be, there's definitely more of a potential here with this Mars-Neptune conjunction for confusion, and maybe possibly even deception. I hate to say this because I'm really not a mundane astrologer. I'm just not I'm not adept enough at what's happening in the world to make comments on it. But this was almost more like this aspect as a really negative manifestation would be more what I would have expected to see with what happened in Brooklyn on the subway, with the shooting on the subway where they let the smoke bomb off, like the smoke bomb. That's very Mars Neptune in like the worst case scenario. So again, there's a lot of positive possibilities for this kind of energy to manifest. Use it for positive. What do I have here? Mars, Neptune, spicy, inspiration at best, illusion and violence and addiction at worst, right? So this can also be violence and addiction because Neptune wants to go it's a transcending energy. It transcends the physical reality. in the boundaries of the physical reality. But if you're not doing that in a healthy way, you can be trying to escape the boundaries and the confines of physical reality through drugs and alcohol abuse. Mars is a double-edged sword. It can be used for liberation and leadership and a lot of good things, but it can be aggressive and violent as well. And it is the planet of war. And so to use this in the positive would be great. Like maybe like activism around like cleaning up oceans or saving the whales, or anything sort of Piscean. I feel like I wrote some stuff down here that I'm missing. Water sports. Oh my God. Yeah, that would be like a great way to use this energy, like competitive swimming or like Marco Polo or something. Passionate, creative, and spiritual pursuits, humanitarian activism. So, yeah. But it can just be a lot of energy that's going into the abyss and like doesn't know where to go. So use it well. And if you're not sure where to go, that's okay. You can like marinate, you can meditate. You can just hang out with a friend, and that will work as well. Okay. But possibly seeing some interesting things unfolding in the collective, especially with how challenging things have been for the last couple of years. And again, we didn't even really go into, I need to talk more about this Jupiter moving into Aries, which happened on May 10th. So Jupiter in Aries joining Chiron and Venus, and Eris is here too. We don't talk about her very much because she only moved 10 degrees in the last 40 years. She's just been there for a really long time. For some of you, I have her conjunct my sun in my chart. That'll be a separate video. But in case you're like, what's this glyph? That's the asteroid Eris. We'll just set her aside for now. But there is a lot of energy in Aries. Jupiter expands everything. It is the greater benefic. It makes everything bigger. It amplifies everything. And it brings benevolence, blessing, and grace everywhere it goes. Now, Jupiter moving from Pisces into Aries is also like a major loss of dignity because Jupiter is in one of its most powerful placements in the sign of Pisces, where it has been. And moving into Aries, it's still Jupiter. It's still going to offer blessings and grace and goodness and love. But it's really not in charge there. It's answering to Mars. Mars is the landlord of Aries. So while Jupiter potentially can soften and bring more benevolence and grace to sort of like that martial war, like, warriorness that is the sign of Aries, that fire, and maybe have that energy manifest more in the light than in the shadow. Jupiter also amplifies things. It amplifies everything. So I see it as a great thing with the two benefics, Jupiter and Venus, together in the sign of Aries, because that really is bringing all of the best things that you can be, it's bringing the best out of Aries. So again, Aries energy in the light is leadership, defender of the weak, passion, vitality, drive, positive action, inspiration, bravery, courage. Oh my God. Like, it's like something needs to be done and I'm going to do it. Like, it's the charge. So this can bring really the best into that. And we'll only have Venus there for a very short while as well. So like this period of time through May is, or through most of May, from May 10th, especially where you're getting double benefics, is really like best case scenario for people with fire placements and like, Aries energy. However, other difficult things that are going on that are like maybe more shadow stuff, like war, violence, aggressiveness, aggression, which are very real things. And there's a lot of that happening in the world right now, can be amplified by Jupiter as well. So there is that danger there. And it's just something to know that if, like, I have a lot of Aries energy, and I'm like, how is this going to affect me? Like, it's going to be good, but I'm also probably just knowing every time planets come through the sign of Aries, my feelings are really amplified, and I have a very hard time, like they can be overwhelming to me. I have to work harder to just breathe and not overreact or respond too soon. It can be very difficult to ground myself. So this is a much less grounded energy than we've had for a very long time. I mean, Jupiter has been in Pisces, which is not grounded, but it's soft. It's soft, it's flowy, like it's water. There's density to it. Before that, for the last couple of years, it was in signs ruled by Saturn. So like this is explosive with, well, not quite yet. It's good. It's good explosive, but it's like, it's explosive energy. It's a lot of fire that maybe we need to bring some attention to try to like, we need to bring the manager in to like manage it and like make sure that it's doesn't accidentally burn out of control. So yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see how this unfolds. I honestly don't know. Jupiter and Venus there could be best case scenario for like the best manifestations of like the most benevolent Aries energy, but we do have to be careful because it can be difficult to contain this kind of energy. So yeah, that's really important. And Jupiter is in Aries like all year pretty much. I think toward the end of the fall, we have it retrograde briefly back into Pisces again. And it's really not like the astrology toward the fall and the end of the year is much more challenging. So, any military action and stuff that's been happening and that's going to be happening, like I'm not going to project anything out into the world. I'm not making those types of predictions, but Aries is a sign that is associated with war and the warrior. So, and bold, courageous action, that has a shadow side. So we really need to monitor that. And again, in the positive, it can be like just amazingly courageous leadership in service to others. So we're having this all year, but especially in May, we get both benefics in the sign of Aries. So Aries, your Aries house, like this is where you're going to get a lot of gifts, especially this month here, even though Mercury is retrograde. Okay, so I know I just kind of reverted because I had skipped over that on May 10th. Sun enters Gemini. Sun at 0 Gemini, conjoining Mercury retrograde, basically. Like right when the sun enters Gemini, which is on May 20th, it's, fixed into conjoin. It's going toward a conjunction with Mercury and Gemini, who is retrograde. So let's talk about Gemini season, and let's ground ourselves actually in what Gemini season even is. So we've been in Taurus season this whole time, even though we started sort of more earthy and wet, and then we moved more into like all these planets went into Aries, and it's still earthy, but it's like spicy earth. And now we've got, a lot of energy in just air and fire, which is just wants to take right off. It's like fire, 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 and a lot of oxygen just feeding that fire. Gemini energy is an air, so it's air, it's mutable air, so it's a little bit this, a little bit that. It's ruled by the planet Mercury, who is considered actually traditionally non-binary. Mercury is a they. Mercury can go either way, and so it's perfect. We've got this air sign which rules the intellect, the mind, everything mental, and communication, speech, writing, exchanging information, connecting, like not on a heart level, but like not like Venus connects, through like in an embodied way, but Mercury's like sharing information, hanging out with friends, bipping and bopping everywhere, going here, going there, moving around. So this, it's very stimulating. Mercury can never just be doing one thing either. So yeah, we might find when the sun moves into Gemini on May 20th that we're suddenly like quite stimulated. The Gemini sector of your chart will light up. So check out to see where that is. And for me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to probably see my sister. Like, it rules siblings in my chart. It's just funny. Like, it's just, does astrology cause things, or does it just, reflect does it just describe what's already happening? It's so interesting. But so as we move into this Gemini season, which has a lot to do with like experimentation and moving around and socializing and, writing and speech and all of this, communications, travel, usually shorter distances. You want to back up your tech if you didn't already do this, because Mercury is retrograde. The planet that rules this is not moving forward. It's moving backwards. So, Mercury retrograde, the classic thing is like, it wants us to revise and review. In order to fully move forward, there are always maybe some knots that got accidentally formed, some papers that got dropped. We have to go back and fix stuff in order to really move forward. Sometimes it's retrieving things as well, things that were started before and never finished. And sometimes you start things and don't finish them, and you can just biff them in the garbage. Like, not everything has to come to full fruition, but some projects really are meant to be retrieved. You're like, no, this was really good. We just need to tweak it. We just need to fix it. We just need to give it a little bit more time and attention. So again, Mercury retrogrades, there can be, people can be more prone to miscommunications. And by this point, Mercury has been retrograde for 10 days. So it's just, this is a great time, whatever Gemini stuff is going on in your chart, the Gemini house, it's this particular Gemini season really wants us to maybe look back at some stuff that we already started and just finish our one plate before we have our dessert. So back up your files. If you did, we should back your files up actually before Mercury goes retrograde. Take care of your tech. This is not a great time to make major tech purchases. If you have to, you have to just, get the warranty, get the extended warranty. Again, signing contracts is probably not the best thing to do. You can sign, if it's a brand new contract, especially. You can, if you have to, you have to. This is not something where you need to just do super stress. It depends. If Mercury is your time lord this year, or the sun is your time lord this year, it might be it's going to be a much bigger deal. If it's not, maybe not so much. But the whole thing with Mercury retrogrades is we think we know what's going on, but we don't. Usually there's some stuff we're missing, hence having to go back and retrace our steps and all of that. So just take extra care, read everything twice, have an escape clause, have a safety plan, back your files up. Probably don't book a trip for now if you don't have to, unless it's I'll be traveling, but I'm going back. I'm retracing my steps, it's funny. So that's what that deal is about. So we're in Gemini season, and things kind of pick up. The intellectual or the mental stimulation picks up, but there can be some tangles that need to be worked out. Okay, May 20th. What else do I have? Yeah, communications are just really, really big, and connections. Okay, yeah. May 21st, this is something, to note. If you do have to sign a contract, buy an appliance, book a trip, and you're like, oh shit, find an astrologer who works with Cazimis. I didn't look at what this is, but there's a period of time where I bet you the Astrology podcast covers it in their forecast, where Mercury will be within 20 minutes of the sun. So any planet that's really close to the sun is actually considered combust and burned up in the rays of the sun, and you can't see it, and it's kind of, it's afflicted. But when it's right in the heart of the sun, right in the most direct conjunction, and I would use a really tight orb of 20 minutes for this, it's remediated significantly. And, it's still Mercury retrograde, but it's if you have to do something, you can find out exactly when this Cazimi happens. I know it's on the 21st, which is when things exactly conjoin. Is it on the 21st? Okay. Oh, that's because I'm still on hours here. Hang on. Days. Yeah. Yeah, on the 21st. So look just fine when that is, and maybe if you can use that, the energy might be flowing a little bit better. Okay, and then on the very next day, on May 22nd, we actually have Mercury re-entering the sign of Taurus. So Mercury's, Taurus is about Earth and physical reality. Mercury is a mental planet, and so it really has to slow down there. So it just themes in your Taurus sector of your chart being revisited at that point in time. That's where Mercury began. No, it didn't begin its retrograde there. But this is some stuff that needs to be revisited and reworked. Okay, May 24th. All right, so this is a big thing. We talked earlier about a lot of Aries energy. I'm just scrolling here to get Mars to go into Aries. Mars ingresses into Aries on May 24th. Come on. At night, apparently. Yeah, at least in my time zone. So I think it'll be like 5:14 p.m. or like around 5 o'clock LA time, around 8 o'clock New York time. If you're in Nova Scotia, around 9 p.m. And the moon's in Aries too. Look at this. Wow. Woo. So we have Venus, Eris, Chiron, Jupiter, the moon, and Mars. This is very explosive. And again, you can use, look for the best of Aries. Look for the best of Aries. Luckily, it's making a sextile, like all of this by sign to Saturn. But it will be eventually making all of this Aries stuff will be squaring Pluto. So yeah, basically it's mixed. There's some support, and there's also going to be some power dynamics over this whole Aries story that need to be faced off and worked out. But for now, the meat of this aspect basically is, so Mars is the warrior planet, and it's going into Aries, the sign that it rules. It's on its battlefield. It's where it is reigning supreme. It is king or queen, or however you want to see Mars. Very masculine energy traditionally. And so it's really gaining a lot of power here. Mars wants to move. It wants to just go, and it's got an agenda. It's very directed, and it wants to accomplish something. And it's very driven by raw passion. I mean, as a double Aries, you can sometimes feel like you're on fire inside, and it's so uncomfortable that the only way to discharge that energy from my system or my body is to say something or do something, or, you're literally overcome with this urge to act. So for that reason, it can be a powerful energy that can also be, it's a double-edged sword. It's very difficult to manage sometimes, but it's at its strongest in the sign of Aries. So my natal Mars is in detriment in Libra and retrograde. So maybe this is a best case scenario for Mars. It's very well resourced in the sign of Aries to carry out everything that it wants to carry out. It's I'm going to do this. Oh, look, great. Everything's flowing. I can do that. And I have Jupiter there, the most benevolent, graceful, luckiest planet that's going to help me. And Venus is still here. Venus is going to help me. I'm unstoppable, basically. So we have, this is the charge. It's the battle cry. And with the moon being here, which again, the moon moves every 2.5 days into a new sign, it just really amplifies that, because we really feel the moon as well. So there's such a distinct, shift and big change in energy in May. It's really radical. We start much more chill, and then the eclipses are happening, and then all of this energy goes into Aries, which is just lighting a giant fire. And it's bright and it's light. And again, it can really, if things have been stalled, stagnant, if you've been out of your power in your Aries part of your chart, this is a massive shift in all this light comes back into you, and it's can give you your confidence back, your sense of will back, your sense of self back, your sense of strength back is very strong energy. So it's a lot of vital energy that comes back into the system. It comes back online. And I see this as incredibly positive. However, again, it is something that needs to be checked because it can be like an inferno, and it can easily become extra, right? So we just want to breathe, and I always think with Aries energy, when there's so much of it, just focus on taking the high road always, right? And be really keyed into your conscience, and have a little foresight, because Aries doesn't know very well how to look ahead. Like, it's so overwhelmed by what it feels in the moment. And sometimes, even now, like, I know that I'm like that. And sometimes the impulse is so strong that I still just don't even care in the moment, because I'm so inspired that I just can't contain myself, or I'm so pissed off that I don't have the self-control to, so to have a little gravity and try to think like long-term, what is the strategy? It's not just like that initial battle cry of like, here I go, this is my agenda, I want to do this, I'm going for it. Like, there's all of that's going to be happening, but try to have a plan, and some self-control. That's like the best way to sort of temper Aries energy, and also consciousness of others, so not being too wrapped up in the ego, so that you're not like totally knocked off balance if there's like a power dynamic that comes up to be worked through, because those will be. So that's just the lay of the land with Aries energy in general, but it really is going to be so much. Like, if you don't feel this when all this starts to happen in May, like, are you dead? Like, I don't know. This will bring you back to life. It'll bring the Aries part of your chart back to life. What's going to happen here next? Let me just check to see if I didn't forget anything. Make progress in the Aries part of your chart. Great progress can be made at this time. Take care to be mindful of other people and the balance of me, we. Aries energy exists for a reason, and if you're someone who needs to step more into your power and autonomy, this is a time when you can surely do that. If you're someone who's already fairly strong, you can receive a boost, but may need to take extra care not to become aggressive or domineering, or to overdo this energy, because in its shadow, it can be violent and abusive. Abusive is, again, with all these benefics here, less likely, but possible. Mars energy is a double-edged sword, and it's going to be amplified by Jupiter. And I have a Mars class that I did the last time Mars was retrograde, and it was retrograde in Aries, which was like the fall of 2020, and it's on YouTube. And it just goes through a lot of what Mars, so this is not a Mars retrograde thing, but the class is good because it shows you how you can best work with Mars energy if you want to deepen that. Okay, so this is the charge. This is a time to take charge. It's that Braveheart battle cry. Okay, so days moving forward. The next thing we see here is May 27th, and we have Venus square Pluto. Yeah, and actually May 26th, 27th, depending on your location. So yeah, Venus square Pluto, Venus in Aries, who's very passionate and may not have the passivity or receptivity as much that Venus typically has. She wants to love and she wants love. She may not have the patience that she typically has. And she's in a hard aspect to Pluto here. And every planet that's moving through Aries is going to come into hard aspect with Pluto. She is answering to Mars, who's conjunct, who's very passionate in Aries, and who's in a forming conjunction with Jupiter in Aries. So everything is overblown and amplified. And I see this, again, can be really powerful and very positive, but with Venus square Pluto, when you have anything square to Pluto or in hard aspect to Pluto, what I've noticed is that one of Pluto's themes is power. So they say Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. And I'm like, it is, absolutely. It's shadow work. But it always shows us where we are out of our power. Whether that is like, and with a square aspect, we might not be able to see it as clearly, but we can feel it. We're experiencing some sort of maybe challenging power dynamic with something or someone. And this is a quick transit, and it can sting. So there's more of a potential for conflict at this time between the Aries and Capricorn houses of your chart, or, the Venus ruled and Mars ruled houses of your chart. So just breathe and take the high road, and allow whatever, if there's challenging feelings or wounds or triggers, trigger is a word that would come up under a Venus-Pluto square with all these planets in Aries. If there's a trigger that comes up, breathe and maybe give yourself some time. Like, no matter how badly you want to react in the moment, maybe don't do that. The thing is, when anger comes up, it's not bad. It's showing you something, but acting on the feeling of that anger may actually, like in the moment, before having a chance to for it to work through your system and for you to, regulate your nervous system, calm down, and see what the actual most empowering action for you might be. Acting before you can have a chance to go through that process is usually not smart. And I say this from experience as someone with a lot of Aries energy and challenging Pluto aspects in my own chart. So anger, tune into the anger or to the trigger and listen to what it is trying to tell you. It's trying to tell you that there's something that you're not okay with. And that's great. And you should honor that. But there's usually there will be a really good way for you to address this and to stand up for yourself and to deal with it. And it probably won't be in the heat of the moment, or it may not be in the heat of the moment, especially if you're a fiery type to begin with. If you're someone that never stands up for yourself, or that's always very grounded and very passive, this could be really good for you because it can help you assert yourself. And in a dynamic where you never do. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that. So moving forward. Okay, so yeah, we're basically in this transit May 26th, 27th. The next transit I want to talk about perfects on the 29th, but we're in it now. So in this Venus-Pluto square, we have Mars in an applying conjunction with Jupiter, which is literally just it's explosive. It's rocket level fire. And that can be good, or that can be violent. And so let's look at that, because everything has a light and everything has a shadow. So I remember looking at this in charts of people, doing readings over the last while and being like, wow, this is on your midheaven. Something really powerful could happen, in your job, so this is power, and this is firepower. Here we've got Mars conjoined Jupiter, which goes exact on May 29th. It's luckily out of the, Saturn is not messing with this. Pluto isn't a sign-based square, but they're really far away from each other. So it's actually, when I say it's explosive, it's really not, it's 25 degrees away from Pluto by square. It's really far. I'm not going to focus on it. We'll just say it's not square Pluto. It is technically by sign, but so this is a raw conjunction that's largely not being picked on or baited by any other challenging energies. So it has the ability to be quite positive. It's actually making a sextile to the sun and the new moon, or the dark moon. Basically, we're in a dark moon right now. It's about to be a Gemini new moon at this point. So it's making a harmonious aspect, actually, to a lot of things that are going on. And Venus actually ingressed into Taurus, so that looks like I missed that, which would have happened the day before. Hang on. Yeah, May 27th, like right after Venus squares Pluto, she actually ingresses into Taurus. So to go back to what I was saying about that potential conflict, it looks like there's a positive resolution because Venus moving from Aries to Taurus, she's moving into a sign of dignity. She rules Taurus. She's very comfortable there and she's very powerful there. So she moves from a place, the planet that is in charge of love, beauty, connection, grace, and art and everything good, relationships. She moves from a difficult triggering sort of conflict aspect directly when she passes through that directly into a place of power. So it can really end well, which is nice. It's good for Venus. So now we have Venus in Taurus for the next little while, probably close to the next month. And that's really nice for the Taurus parts of our chart as well. So where we had this eclipse happening earlier in the month, or rather April 30th, and all of this new energy coming into our Taurus part of our chart, now this is actually strengthened and bolstered again. So it comes in layers and phases. So this is like good stuff in the Taurus part of your chart for sure. So back to this Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Aries. Where is the Aries house of your chart? Something powerful is popping off here. We have Mars in Aries about every 2 years, but Jupiter is only in Aries every 12 years. So this conjunction, actually, I should have researched my synodic cycles and I didn't. Every time Jupiter's in Aries, Mars, that doesn't mean that we're even going to get Mars and Jupiter in Aries together. We could just have a year where we miss that. So I don't know when the last Mars-Jupiter conjunction was, but this is quite powerful. So again, Mars is the boss of this because Mars rules Aries. Mars is the landlord of Aries. Mars is in charge of the Aries sector of your chart, and it's in the Aries sector of your chart, and it has an agenda. It wants to do certain things. It has certain, it wants to make progress and lead and reinvigorate and revitalize that particular part of your life. And we have Jupiter there amplifying that energy and bringing grace and benevolence to it. Jupiter generally presents opportunities, I find. If it's on top of good aspects, it just brings a lot of grace and blessings. If it's on top of challenging aspects or malefics, like Mars is a malefic, even though it's in its power right here and it has the ability to do important, and we need Mars energy. Like we need the phallus for life. We need leadership. We need like good warriors of the light. We need leadership. But sometimes there can still be kind of stinging energy around that because it's so intense and it can be so assertive and aggressive. But Jupiter can help us work through any of the shadows as well. So I have all these malefics in my chart in like the same place. And when I had Jupiter moving through there last, I did have a lot of progress and expansion in that area of my life, but I had to work through challenges around it. So Jupiter on malefics isn't like the challenge goes away. Jupiter on malefics is like, here's this challenging energy. We're going to bring some grace to helping you work through that. And that's how I see this. But again, it can just be like really amplified. So there's something massive happening in the Aries part of everyone's chart this month. For me, that's first house. It's interesting. I've been basically in exile for 2 years and I'm coming into like a space where I can be more free and just live my life. And that's cool. So where is the Aries house in your chart for you? Expect good things. And it's actually an amazing time to make moves. Now, knowing still that Mercury is retrograde at this time, but the thing is, there's just going to be stuff happening here anyway. Like there's a lot of progress in this part of your chart. Okay, what else? I don't know if you can hear my cat. He is snoring and it is really cute. But yeah, Mars and Aries with conjunct Jupiter is like big CEO energy. So depending on what part of your chart this is in, that may or may not like resonate or be appropriate, but it's like red power suit energy too. So it doesn't always have to do with like, athletics or sports or like physical stuff, although you know, Mars and Aries can be very physical, but it can just be like big boss energy. Okay, so May 30th, we have this new moon in Gemini. So Gemini new moon at 9 degrees of Gemini. And Mercury, again, the ruler or the landlord of Gemini, is still retrograde, and it's retrograde in Taurus. Actually, it looks like it's retrograde in Taurus on Algol, which is a challenging star that can... Actually, the symbolism around Algol is like losing one's head. It's kind of Kali type energy, which is interesting if you're the goddess of, you know, destruction. That's funny that I didn't see this when I made my notes. But again, Kali energy is like Phoenix energy as well. So that theme may or may not come up for you. A lot of people don't, Algol is a fixed star. A lot of people don't use fixed stars, so you may find astrologers that aren't even mentioning that. And I don't want to project that onto anybody. It's just, with Mercury retrograde on Algol, I suppose there's a little bit more possibility for like losing one's head. But, you know, if you're being careful around your communications, that's a good thing. And so this lunation, this sun and the moon here in Gemini, which is to do with communications and new seeds being planted in your Gemini house, they may be like new seeds that involve old seeds that you're still, you know, reworking, reviewing, and tending. So communications could be moving more slowly despite this Gemini energy, because Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, which is not an air sign, and it's not fast. It's about slow, stable, like slowing down, rooting, all of those things. So if communications feel sluggish, that could be why. And again, we want to flow with this energy. Maybe they should be sluggish right now. We shouldn't be trying to take off too fast. There are revisions required in your Taurus and Gemini houses. This new moon is not super tightly configured to other planets. Like it's being supported by sextile through the Aries planets. So there's a lot of maybe inspiration feeding this new moon, but again, you still want to be careful about what you're seeding, and also, if you can, reworking, revisiting, reviewing, revising, and possibly retrieving some things. It is in sign-based trine to Saturn. So Saturn does stabilize things, and things that are begun when Saturn is in a supportive aspect have the ability to go the distance. So there could be some things that you started before or that you are starting now that maybe like involve other things that you started in the past, that you're planting new seeds or replanting seeds, and they actually have the ability, they have some staying power this time. They have some gravity. Let's see. And it is square to Neptune, but like it's like 15 degrees or 16 degrees away. So that's not that, you know, I'm not as noting that as much, I guess. I would just say there's still some things that we're reviewing and revising before full steam ahead here. Yeah, anything that you have begun before in your Gemini and Taurus houses of your chart that you are revisiting could thrive now. And I think that's really it for this month. I always, you know, think maybe I'll be able to get through this faster, but it always just takes me a while. So with that, thank you for joining me. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments and I will answer. If you have comments even, I'm always curious what other people's thoughts are on all of this. I tend to be long-winded. I'm not like a super, I guess, direct, like to the point communicator. I try, but it just doesn't work for me. You'd see that in my chart. So I would also recommend checking out some other astrologers, because everybody has a different window. Everyone has a different viewpoint, and everyone has different wisdom to impart. We all see things slightly differently, even though we're looking at the same timing and the same themes. And sometimes we miss things and someone else will catch it. So some of my favorite astrologers, I love Nina Griffin. Love Nina Griffin. And she is very short and to the point. And she deals with mundane astrology as well, which is the astrology of the events of the world as they're unfolding. She will often cover different areas of the world and different countries. So check out Nina Griffin. Of course, the Astrology podcast too. Like, this validates my long-windedness because all of their episodes are like never less than 2 hours. So you can check them out for like really hot takes on everything that's happening through the month of May. Sabrina Monarch is really cool too. She's an evolutionary astrologer, and I just enjoy, she has a really kind of fresh, slightly different take on things. She's very artistic. So, yeah, and book a reading if you want to dive into your own chart and look at everything that's happening really in depth for you. I just made readings more accessible. I've started to offer shorter times for readings, which makes the price point a lot less. And I'm still offering my standard, year ahead reading, and it's deluxe. It's a 90+ minute reading, and it's so thorough. But there's a lot of other offerings now. You can book a 90-minute reading that's open, that doesn't come with a PDF. So it makes it a lot less work for me. I mean, I still go all in. I just don't write every single thing down for you. So that shaves $50 off the price. I feel like I should be charging more for this PDF because it just kills me to do them. But so there's a lot of options, whatever your price point is. And yeah, I go all in for you. Like, I look at as much as I can look at in the time that we have, and leave everything open for questions. So feel free to book. My website is sacredstarlight.com. You can find me on Instagram, sacred_starlight.com. I have some great free meditations on YouTube. And I'm traveling back to California in May. So I hope to be offering in-person meditations at Liberate Yourself in Sherman Oaks again very soon. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that just is what it is. This video has been long enough. So I'm sending you a lot of blessings for May, and blessings always. And just remember, with everything that we said, stay open. Astrology is is exciting because often we see things unfolding after we've listened to a forecast and we're like, aha, that's what that's about. But stay open, because I really believe miracles are possible in every moment. And if you have love in your heart, and if you're alive, you have access to miracles at every single moment. And that can change everything. So don't give your power away to a forecast. Just use it as a tool so that you can respond from an empowered way. Take your power back, not give your power away. All right, all my love.